So here we are in 2026, right? If you even spoke about Pizzagate before on these platforms, YouTube, X, all of it, your videos were removed, period. If you spoke about Aurora, 9/11, any of it, your videos and channel were either shadow banned or removed. Suddenly, these people who have either came out of nowhere or left large media companies are given not only the platform, but the promotion as well, when it was kicked out from underneath the feet of any person who spoke up about it before. Why? And coincidentally, all these people who are speaking up now, these people who came out of nowhere, they know each other or they're affiliated. Why? I'll give you another example that I've tested myself recently to confirm, and it's totally true. If you mention my name in a comment section, it is immediately removed by YouTube. Same with linking any video that goes to my channel. It is immediately deleted by YouTube. Not put into the held comment section, deleted, removed. This means that someone had to physically go into YouTube and add me to a banned list to keep people from getting my information by chance. Why? Other people who speak about the same thing but weave in chakra or, new age shit are actually promoted and allowed to enter the psyche of the masses. Why? The idea that people are hearing voices and that these voices are demons is promoted all over YouTube. If I type it into the search bar, my homepage will be full of the demonic bullshit pushing that idea. They want you to have two places to go: mental health or demons. Why is the rational technological middle ground not allowed? They do not want anyone thinking about that. When they didn't want people talking about the shot, and a lot of people still were, they just banned the speech, period, flat out, in your face, and they didn't care. And it kept the idea afloat that the people who thought this way were small in number. Nothing has changed. So why is the soapbox being given to these certain people who came out of nowhere or came from these giant media firms? Why are they allowed to give you the message? Something isn't right here. You need to understand that. There's so much information everywhere. You're being bombarded with information that we didn't get before, that you couldn't get before. It was struck down everywhere. Suddenly X opens up, and YouTube follows. Suddenly, people are saying things on YouTube that they could never get away with before. And people believe that this is the Great Awakening. But I don't think that they're seeing the full picture. I don't think that they're seeing that this is being hijacked in a major way. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. Whatever. But look back at 2020 or 2021. When they did not want information out there about COVID or about whatever, it got struck down. The hammer came down, that was it. But now, people believe that it just got too big and they couldn't hold the wall back and the information came through. Twitter was all about training AI, getting your ideas down into a small enough compartmentalized little block of information that AI could analyze. And Elon Musk simply let all the censorship go so that it could train the AI and the AI could learn from it. And they're using it as an op. There are multiple purposes. But YouTube realized that the information was getting bigger and bigger on other platforms. So they did bring it forward. And why? So they could control it. You have all these people out there now that didn't even exist 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And when you look them up, a lot of them, there's no trace of them. They just did not exist. And here they are, and suddenly they're promoted. I dare anybody to make a video and put it up and see if you have more than a couple hundred views after, a few years. Start a new channel, copy one of their videos word for word, say it, see if the algorithm promotes it. See if you have more than a couple hundred views after like 2 years of it being up. It's artificial. And they're taking control of this narrative so that they can inject and change the important part. It's 90% truth, 10% lies. And this is how they operate. They're taking it over because they're keeping you occupied. You know, the Epstein files, for example, people are just digging through these things, looking at every detail, and they should. But people aren't thinking correctly. People are thinking like, the bad guy is gone. Let's look through the remains and let's find out what was going on. It's still going on. Nothing's changed. There's an Epstein now doing exactly what he did or worse. So, you know, there's another Epstein doing the same thing, and people need to be reading the Epstein files and saying, okay, how can we apply this to today? But they're not. They're being duped and psyoped and screwed with, and they think this information overload is natural. It's not natural. You need to understand that they're not sentimental. They don't care. They'll shred all of this. They're shredding the culture. They will tear down all of your heroes, pop culture. And it doesn't matter. Just like they destroyed Star Wars and every other cultural phenomenon, they don't care. Those are distractions. And when the time comes where they're not useful to them anymore, they will destroy them as quick as they brought them up and propped them up. Because they're not sentimental. These are tools at the time. When the tool outlives its usefulness, it's cycled through. They can burn it down and not give a shit. And let's be honest, no one would know about any of this if it wasn't for YouTube. I mean, pop culture wise, the masses, they wouldn't care. We've been talking about these ops that have happened over the last 25 years, 9/11, S-Hook, Aurora. We talked about Epstein not being dead years ago. Pizzagate. Suddenly, it's all brand new to these people because they're bringing it to the masses. YouTube and X. This information has been on BitChute and on other platforms, Odyssey, under the radar for years and years and years. And here's the weird part. I don't have a problem with people getting, waking up to what is happening around them. What I do have a problem with is these people are talking about all of this stuff like it's brand new, whatever the subject is. For example, we just found out that Jeffrey Epstein might be alive, and that that doesn't look like him, doesn't look like the dead guy. And there was a post on 4chan. Well, a lot of us read the post on 4chan, dude. Like 6 years ago or whatever it was, 7 years ago. It's madness the way they present this stuff as though it's brand new. They're Einsteining everything. And they're selling you, 90% of the truth, and the important parts are screwed up. A quick example of this, Tucker Carlson pretending to be totally aloof and totally obtuse and asking Ian Carroll to explain to Tucker Carlson what the Pizzagate files were, right? Now, it's weird, right? Because if you go to Ian Carroll's YouTube, this guy popped up out of nowhere in 2023. Why is somebody like Ian Carroll, who popped up out of nowhere a couple of years ago, explaining Pizzagate to somebody when he wasn't even around, when there were 1,000, 2,000 other researchers who completely covered this? Why is Ian Carroll suddenly the authority on it? It's very odd. But the most important part about all of this is that they are keeping you occupied with this information while they set up the death blow. And when the death blow comes, they are going to pull the rug out from under all of you. And what's going to happen is you were caught up in the Epstein files, caught up in Charlie Kirk, Bill Gates. But there's a bigger picture. The bigger picture is more important. You can pay attention. Pay attention. You should pay attention. But realize that you're being distracted. You need to analyze, why am I being distracted from bigger pictures? When they didn't want people talking about any of this stuff, they can keep it down. They don't have a problem doing that. Like I said, look back to 2020, 2021. If you honestly believe the bullshit that came out, that was Biden's federal government who did that, that was Biden's FBI or whatever that threatened and censored all these different companies. No, it was just the federal government, man. But YouTube and X are allowing this information to proliferate through the public on purpose. And only by their trusted alternative sources that get promoted, that instantly get into the stream of the algorithm. You believe that the Great Awakening is coming. But in reality, you're being demoralized. This is a step of demoralization because these people keep falling for it. And that is what's happening right now. You have the right wing, these guys that are like, pry it from my cold dead hands. They're assembling something right now. You won't even get to the end of your driveway. And they'll have you down on your knees, not knowing what's going on. They already have it. When I say they are building this system, I just mean that they are assembling the infrastructure for it. They have had the technology for years. Guns are useless to this shit, bro. This is all going to demoralize everybody to the point of civil war. And then they're looking for a reason to bring that hammer down. And you think it's the Great Awakening. And they are setting the biggest trap ever for you right now. With all of this information from people who weren't even online 2-3 years ago. It's bizarre. Or they work for these companies, Fox News, whatever the big media company is. Here they are. Ta-da! How do you like me now? And they're doing this song and dance. Suddenly they get the truth, bro. I finally get it, bro. Really, dude? Really? It's just amazing to me. They are setting this up. The hyperinflation, the demoralization. This is Germany, World War I type stuff. Treaty of Versailles, that kind of thing, right? And what is going to happen is it is going to push the people to desperation, where two sides aren't even looking at each other as human beings anymore. Civil war ignites. Then they can bring it all down, man. And you're setting yourself up for the big drop. Because they're just waiting. They're waiting. There's black powder everywhere right now. There's black powder everywhere, and they're waiting to light the match. And it's all going to go up. Everybody's going to react, and then they're going to bring their hammer down. Like with this AI stuff. They have had AI, and I'm positive of this from my past experiments, my work in the past. I'm positive that they have had this kind of AI for years and years and years. And no, I'm not one of those people that believes it's ancient AI. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about human technology, AI, modern AI. They've had it for years and years, and they're just now bringing it to the public. And you can bet your ass that anything that they're bringing to the public, they've had for years and years and years. They're going to let the public see what they can do with it and do all the consumer bullshit with it, and then it's going to end up turning on you anyway. This is all working in symbiosis to entrap you. They have people just fuming mad at ICE, because what ICE is doing, the right wing and ICE, it's all performative, dude. These guys are dressing up like SWAT, right? And then they march into a neighborhood, and it's like a parade, and you've got freaks following them around with whistles, right? And they end up arresting like 12 people. Biden and Obama both deported millions of illegals. But how ICE and the right wing is doing it, they're doing it performative to piss you off. It's on purpose, dude. This is all on purpose. 4chan was hacked before all of this let loose in April of 2025. That was totally symbolic. X is now 4chan. That you can talk like this on YouTube because they're taking over the conversations that people were talking about on 4chan while they set up the armies around you. You are totally being distracted. In Arab countries, when a war would break out, or, in Palestine, when unrest would happen, the Mossad would send porn over the airwaves into the televisions. And that would keep these people inside watching porn, right? Because they had never seen it. So suddenly they've got porn on television. They're watching it so that they don't go out and fight, so they don't do anything. That's a tactic. They're doing the exact same thing to you. The exact same thing. Because the left is the right and the right is the left. There's a broader spectrum. They're inside that broader spectrum. They don't care what happens on the right or the left. It's all going to end up in the same place for them. That's what's going to happen. These people are selling you intentional subversion. It's the same way that researchers would get subverted in the past. Like, unless you've been around, it's hard to tell what's been infiltrated and subverted with bullshit now. You know, from 9/11 all the way up to fringe topics, there are lots of great researchers in the past. And these people were great researchers way back until people came to them with information. Except they're doing it intentionally now. But this was unintentional back in the day. Maury Terry, great researcher, until these fucking PSYOPs people started coming to him. Hey, you gotta look over here, bro. You gotta look over here, man. There's something big over here. Oh, you're looking at Promise software, bro? This is what it's really all about. And they start looking, they're instantly led astray. Danny Casolaro from the Octopus Murders, great researcher, until someone came to him and filled him full of bullshit and sent him in the wrong direction. Even with somebody recent, like Jim Fetzer, has been sent in crazy directions where he's calling some guy like an 86-year-old like Mossad agent and shit, saying that he got plastic surgery and shit because someone told him that. And that's how they subvert people. But what they're doing on YouTube and these big channels that are just exploding is they're doing that on purpose. They're selling you the big distraction while the war is set up around your home, while you're sitting in front of the television, so to speak. This is not an accident. This is not the Great Awakening. This is all performative. Everything that you're seeing right now is totally and completely performative, and it is designed to keep you occupied until the trap is sprung. And this isn't some, race war. These new guys that are popping up, they're talking about all this stuff because they're on the second or the first layer of the onion. When these people who have been at it for 15, 20, 30 years are on the 6th, 7th, 8th layer of the onion, deep, looking out. And these people understand that this isn't some race war. Whatever they're selling you, it's a species war. And I'm not going to go deep into that. And I'm not talking about fucking lizard people or any of that shit. I'm talking about a flat out species war. I'm not talking about aliens. I'm saying that it goes much deeper. It is anti-nature. It is anti, if you want to call it God, it is anti-God, the plan. The entire spectrum of dominance is to gain control and bring in a Messiah. You need to understand what that means. Messiah doesn't mean a Jesus figure, so to speak. It means the Savior, someone who will elevate them to dominance. That's what that means. There's so much more to it that I'm not going to get into here. But it is a flat-out species war. And they're setting the trap. And right now, you think that you're in the middle of the Great Awakening, and you are in the middle of the demoralization before the trap has sprung. Everybody's all focused on Epstein. I'm going to show you the most important part of the Epstein files. He talked repeatedly about being a Neanderthal and being proud of it. You listen to people when they tell you who they are, right? Valerie Post calls Jeffrey Epstein a Neanderthal. He says guilty. He's saying that he is a Neanderthal. What's the purpose to all of this while you're looking at the Epstein files? They want to downsize the population, allow no nation to exist, allow no sovereignty. Planetary surveillance through radio frequency biotracking, seismic signals, audio surveillance, change the human race and wipe the genetic memory of humans. In other words, up the war on nature, or God, or whatever you want to call it. AI governance, which is created and programmed by those in power, which makes them omnipresent. And the list goes on. And right now you're witnessing the powder keg, which gives them the reason to bring it all in. They think generationally, while you think day to day. What's going on next Friday? They're thinking 50 years from now for their kids and grandkids, for the throne. Bro, people will be asking and saying in the comments, what are the solutions, bro? What should we do? Stop it. We can point out what happened to someone like Charlie Kirk all day. It's fine. But we know who killed the dude, and he isn't coming back. And Epstein isn't coming back from his island vacation either. He's retired now. Maha is trying to slip this bio bullshit in. It's all incremental. If you're playing with AI, you're playing with the devil. If you're wearing a Fitbit, you're one step away from where they want you to be. So you either stop it by not participating or you don't, bro.